what I've been working on a lot is on spirals and waves in our movement, and a lot of solo work with that, using bokken, qigong, tai sabaki, shadow practice with an invisible partner, and bringing that in now to contact using PVC pipes that we're doing in New Orleans to allow contact at a distance. What we're going to do today is some of these movements, and what we're starting with here with the bokken is this kind of oceanic breathing pattern where we're rocking forward and allowing a wave to travel up from the earth through our whole bodies. And what I'm looking for, what I've been looking for, is this feeling of being moved without any effort, and moving away from any effort to do anything in contact with a partner other than connect and move myself, or allow myself to be moved, actually, is the way to say it. So just enjoying this movement. The feeling is one of rocking forward, breathing in, allowing everything to open, rocking back on your heels, let your back get round, and your head and your tailbone come forward, and then as you rock forward onto the front of your feet, your head and your tailbone come back. Breathing in through your nose throughout the whole movement, sending your breath into every part of your body. And at some point, if you're doing this with the bokken in hand, which I like to do to work into working with the bokken, we do this in my morning classes in New Orleans in the park right now. So allowing the feeling of extending the breath into the fork or the kitchen spoon or chopstick or dough or whatever. And not forcing, of course, but looking for more articulation, looking for more space in the movement, challenging my balance, almost falling backwards a bit, almost falling forwards a bit. I just find it a really nice thing to start with. And if you find places of tension like in your neck, add other movements. Allow your neck to turn in the wave. And then at some point, let everything come down and hang. Widen your stance. You can let the ken touch the mat or the ground, the floor, and allow your back, release your back. Gripping the ground with your toes. Releasing your whole spine into your neck. Let the stretch go into your legs because you're sloshing. You're allowing a slosh from side to side. And now breathing in with the blade away from you if you do have a bokken. Otherwise, it doesn't matter, of course. And releasing. Breathing in. And on. Okay. And then now, with if you're using a ken, to keep the blade away from yourself and treat it as sharp. And big circles or spirals with your shoulders all the way down into your lower back, which also is forming part of the wave in your body, allowing that wave to have its articulation through your whole body. It starts coming into your neck. So this moves into your whole spine now. Wave through the whole body. Breathing through the whole movement. And again, looking for places where the wave might deepen in subtle ways, where it's like catching. See if you can find, just noticing those with your mind and releasing them. Keep that going, please. I'm not used to hosting and teaching at the same time, so. There's Glenn. Wonderful. So, welcome, Glenn. Welcome, Naomi. We're just warming up together. Keep that wave going in your body. And from the side, you can see it. You just release. Go slowly with it. Let it work its way through the whole body from your feet to the top of your head. And we go into I don't know, you have to kind of choke up on it because it's so long, but keep that going. I'm just hosting and showing. So this wave articulates all the way up from the feet to and all the way out to the head. And see if the ken can float completely effortlessly. By extension, your arm and everything is driven by the wave. Look like you're reaching, it's like doing the wave in a football stadium. And let your neck go, release into the wave. At some point switching, and I'm actually cutting with the ken, like I'm letting the ken cut. So the blade is actually down and cutting, even as I switch sides. Gripping the ground, adjusting the width of your stance if you need, but releasing and breathing through the movement. And then from here, come into stance. I'm on my right side, so if you want to mirror me on your left, that's fine, or actually maybe I should start on my left, so you can be on your right side. And the idea here is to let that spiral continue. That wave and that spiral, which go together, they're generated from the ground up. The movement's going through my whole body. And what I like to do here some is switch sides in the middle without losing that movement. Find it as effortlessly as you can and grip the ken or the jo or the wooden spoon as completely as is possible given which prop you're using. So no gap, no air in the grab, completely, smoothly, but gently, just like a octopus gripping something. So now switch the direction. So you do have to actually stop that and switch the direction. Let the spiral go the other way, and then switch sides and keep that going. Just hand it to your other side. Hold the midline and keep your vision wide. See the walls, the floor, the ceiling, behind you. Breathe through the whole movement. Breathe in, send the breath into your whole body. And back to the right side. And now this feeling of the wave, this floating feeling. So the idea here is to play with weight shifting. So I'm shifting side to side, and the ken is floating in that movement. And see if you can switch sides. So in the middle of that, you switch to the other side. So now I have left hand on top and left hand forward. This is feeling of floating. And now combine some of that feeling of spiraling and this kind of floating sword feeling. And if you want, you can keep your side. You get tired of one side, and practice floating. All right, okay. Now let the sword float up. Breathe in. And breathe out and let a waterfall sink down. Release bend. Come all the way down. I really have enjoyed during the COVID time working so much with bokken and jo. For many of you have also done more than maybe you were doing, and some maybe were already doing a lot before, but I really like doing these warm-ups with the bokken or the jo. Now, back to this feeling on the midline, and start with one hand. In this case, I have my right side forward. I'm rocking, and the sword is rising from the wave in my whole body. And see if each time you let it cut, if just like when we do two-handed sword, you can make sure that when you raise, your hand articulates out, have this spiraling in like you're wringing out a towel. So your knuckle below your pointer finger is on the top of the hilt. So even with one hand, I've been enjoying kind of finding that in this movement. Looking for this feeling, the sword is raised by the whole body's wave, by the wave which is not generated by me almost. I mean, of course, on some level, I'm choosing to rock back and forth and create it, but on another level, I'm looking for a wave that just naturally wants to be there. I'm switching sides and keeping that same feeling. Doing my left side, which is a little more challenging for me as right-handed, but rocking back and forth, finding the cut. Breathing through the movement, wide vision, hold the midline. Notice it's more challenging on one side. Explore that, and as Isshinkai Shihan has often said to us, let the side that's easier teach the other side. Let, in my case, the left side learn, the right side's easy. I've really been enjoying switching and actually walking with this one-handed cut, with like half steps, quiet cloud walking steps, lifting weight, quiet steps. like, you can start doing Tenkan and reading Tenkan with it as well. These are solo practices after 6.5 months of finding ways to practice in solo without contact. So playing with different angles in the room, stepping up, stepping back. And now go into Aikikai one-handed. So the sword comes around, this case on my right side, my left side. Try to keep very good contact with the hilt so that I'm not gappy in the, I'm not letting it kind of gap or disconnect from my hold, but rather completely holding. And again, the whole body is lifting, the whole body is cutting. And then switching sides on that as well. So exploring how these waves can move the body with the ken, move the body. Elbows into the earlobes. Back to the right side. And now we're going to, with 2 hands, do Aikikai in the same pattern. So let the sword come around one side and cut. I'm sure many of you have experience in whichever style of sword you work on with some kind of Aikikai. What I'm also enjoying exploring here is inspired by my teacher, Dease Sensei, for example, very much, looking to make space in my back, my shoulders, all the way to my arms so that, and my wrists, so that I don't have to have a gap. And I find it's more challenging with 2 hands than 1. But if you can challenge yourself to find that, it's a nice solo practice. Especially if you keep using the wave feeling, breathing through the whole movement. And then switching to the left side. Take a moment to find comfort with the left side if you're not used to it. I know that not everybody trains on the left side. There were, of course, no left-handed samurai, we're always told, but it's really good. Just like I like to brush my teeth with my left side, it's good to do like the empty-handed work, to use the left side and do all the kata left side, just for the way it works our brain and bodies. So, okay, so we often do this kind of solo routine before doing some kata work with the sword. What I'd like to do today is work on the 5th kata from the Kihon series in Kashima. This is only inspired by Kashima. I'm not claiming to be doing Aikido, but it's like Aikido related. It's from that stock, from that lineage, and it's in that pattern. So what we're going to do is bring our heels together now, kind of in a right angle, and have the sword pointed towards an invisible partner about your own height. Step out with your, I'm doing my right side, down into this Seigeidan Kamai, this Seigeidan meaning low and open. So it shouldn't be collapsed and resting on your body or stiffly held out where it's difficult, but the sword can, if you let your arms relax and if you let yourself be lifted from the crown of your skull, the sword just balanced it there. You can feel that you can actually open your fingers and not lose the sword. So from there, for this particular kata, we're going to imagine a shomen cut coming from an uke who is in a similar position to us, and they've stepped back into that position. They're right in front of us. They're going to raise their sword and cut shomen coming right to us. So we're going to, from this low position, work with that wave feeling I was talking that we've been working on. So what we're going to do is, when the cut comes, we're going to wave up into this high position, this Seigan position, not Seigeidan, but Seigan. And in this position, the front hand is right in front of my hara, and the back hand is to, in this case, the left of my hara. And it should feel very comfortable, like a very normal place to hold your space, the way we do with like Ikkyo Undo, a very natural position. So imagine a shomen cut coming, like there, and we're going to meet it with here with a ki. So just to start over again, bring your heels together. We're going to have the right hand on top, so we're going to do normal right-sided pattern. We're going to be aimed at the neck of our partner partner and then step out into a comfortable stance. You can have a weight forward a little bit, this low position. Imagine that our partner did the same thing. They're coming showman now. We're going to spiral up into the position, and that spiral is going to drive their sword down. So this is the beating, okay? So when the showman comes, we go, and drive their sword down. Then step up with our back leg, place the sword on the opposite shoulder. Because what they do, they're going to give us a target in front of us, and we're going to cut with a diagonal cut now. So we're going to, from here, place, step through, and go, toe! Okay? And that's a diagonal cut, kesagiri. Back to the midline, and then 3 steps back. 1, 2, 3. That's the whole pattern for nage, for this kata, is heels together, right hand on top, doing the normal side, aim towards the neck of the partner, step out into this open position. Imagine a showman cut coming, and with that wave-like spiral through the whole body, you come up to here, okay? That's the meeting. Then you step up with your back leg, and imagine that they have the sword in front of you as a target representing their neck, and you're going to cut diagonally through that target. So you're going to, I have my weight on my front leg, I'm going to step in, place the sword on the opposite shoulder, and cut diagonally. To! With a diagonal cut. Kesagiri. And back to the midline, and in contact with them, we do a Mitsugi kind of thing where we're in contact and go 1, 2, 3 steps back. Okay, so one more time, stepping forward, wait for their attack, and then you make that spiral. It's not like you're trying to bat their sword away, you're letting the wave protect you. Just imagine a big wave that just drives their sword down and holds your space. So from the low position, you're just in a spiral kind of movement. Okay, right there. Then you step up with your back leg, place the sword on the opposite shoulder, step through, diagonally cut, toe. Okay, back to the midline. 3 steps back. All right, so that's some of the ways I've been working with the sword, with these waves and spirals. I'd also like to show you one thing empty-handed. So you can take the swords and bow them out, or if you use a jo, or whatever object you use, just bow that out now, the way that you're accustomed to doing that. And then let's do one thing empty-handed. Let's keep all that wave-like feeling we've had going. Let that keep going in your body. And what we're going to do now is we're going to imagine that we're going to do Morote, dori, kokyu, ho. So we're going to do a kata. We're going to do it in the pattern that I'm used to doing it, which may be somewhat familiar across styles. But anyway, I'm going to offer my hand, but I'm all the while feeling this wave through the body, up from the feet. So when they grab, I'm going to imagine they're grabbing that watery feeling as I 10 times let my hand drop. So now I'm facing the same way as they were facing. Then, with a very light, with a feeling of water in my arm, but also lightness, I step up and let the arm float up. I turn like I have a hat on my head, and I step behind them and release all that water and weight. So again, emphasizing this feeling of everything being in the wave. Okay, so Morote, dori, kokyu, ho, offering the wrist high. Then once they've grabbed it, then turning, letting the wrist, letting everything drop. And then breathing in, let everything float up. Turn and release that. And let's try the other side as well. So in this case, my left side, imagine they grab Morote dori. I 10 times, release everything. Check yourself here, your knees are bent, you're lifted from the top of your skull, you feel comfortably rooted, but you also feel able to move because you release the weight off your back leg as you step up to your own leg. The arm is floated up, you turn, step behind, and release all that weight. So we've all done a lot of solo kata, I think, during the past 6.5 months, where we are and what amount of contact we have. This is one way I like to work with kata with the kids and the adults. So now I want to work on this one where we are releasing, coming back, holding plates, and turning them, and then offering them. So breathing in, holding these plates and not letting them spill, saucers full of milk, and back, and turning. So still working with this feeling of down, inhaling from the earth, nature, and from the sky above, and releasing that down to your whole body. Down into the earth, breathing in. Arms floating up and gathering all this good energy from all around you in nature. Sky above, and releasing that like a waterfall, washing through your whole body. Releasing anything you want to let go of, any tension or pain, or any emotion that you want to release, just letting that flow down through your center, through your legs, out through your feet, and into the earth. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. But very happy to welcome and again introduce Dease Sensei. Dan Sensei, onegai shimasu.
Onegai.
I'm going to pin the video to you, Dan. Here we go.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. I'm here. Okay, so I don't recognize a lot of folks on the call. So hello, my name is Dan Dease from Orlando, Florida in the States. And I'm really not terribly prepared today. And Brian has got me thinking about a bunch of other things now because I'm taking his class. So I'll do my best to maybe jump on his back and then we'll see where we go from there. So like Brian, the Kashima is something that we've been interested in here as well. And we like these practices. So let me start the way Brian did, and let's get the bokken out again, and we can kind of go through some movements with that. Okay, so maybe a little less formal with regards to the etiquettes, but the ideas here, maybe let's just kind of again get our bodies moving with the bokken. And so again, from the Seigan position here, we go down as Brian Sensei was talking about. Okay, and as you're, I don't know if you don't have room for this. I have a little bit of room here, so the idea is going to be to come and cut, and then to cut. So if you don't have room in your space for that, then it's perfectly okay to switch your feet and to switch your feet. But again, the idea being that we want to let our body move and I have to admit that I also don't watch myself on video very often. So this has got me really infatuated in my lines. Okay, good. So the basics are something that I'm always infatuated with. And the idea, breathe in and exhale. And exhale, so you get the body moving with the breath. Good. Maybe also too, we can move cut, 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 and then cut. Probably more free here. Don't worry too much about following the kata. So I like this, I like the movement of moving my feet in place. A lot of times in the technique, it's not good for me to maybe walk too much into my partner, but I want to engage him. So the idea is that I stay on the outside, but I also am able to change. And I think also to really focus on using your legs, because your legs help you to keep your back nice and straight. And it also probably will help my shoulders, certainly my lower back and my upper back, but my posture in general. So if I don't use my legs, then I tend to do these kind of things here, which kind of break me down physically a little sooner than I want to. So the feeling is I cut, and I cut. And I can also stop and really analyze, feel what I'm doing with my body, while also, of course, keeping my consight as I go. Okay, so let's put these down first now. So again, now the idea is it's here or it's not here. It doesn't matter. So it's here, and as I cut the legs, it's hard to see with the hakama maybe, but this is standing and this is seated. And I move. And I move. And I move. And I move. Endo Sensei, in his last number of years, talks a lot about the idea of the cut being very relaxed, not something that you put a lot of tension in your body. And I think we all like that idea. So we move, we move. A lot of times I'll say, when we have a few beginners that just started with this, and we try to get them to feel the shokunuchi without making it like a chop. And the feeling to me, and we kind of joke with this, is just tap. Just tap on the head. So the idea is that not so much that a shokunuchi is a tap, but the relaxation that I have to tap puts no tension, in my hands. So I tap. And that helps me to keep the movements going in a soft manner. And again, I think a lot of the shock absorbers are my legs, right? So doing these things with my legs stiff, it tends to make me lose my balance. So if I can put the shock absorbers in, keeping my hanmi, right? I also like that my head stays in a position, so it's more difficult for my partner to judge where I'm going as I go. And then again, of course, with the next one, the yokomen, the same idea. So a lot of times with our beginners, and I'll reference those folks, so maybe you've experienced this when you work with new folks as well, is there's this idea that I want to hit as hard as I can, right? I want to really hit them. And so the feeling is, you want to slow them down. This is a good position that you always start, either from shokunuchi or from yokomenuchi, okay? And the idea is that we don't want this kind of a yokomenuchi simply because when it's out here, I step into it and I can parry it very easily. So what I want to do is I want to bring it up as a uke and cut with my elbow. I still stay on my line here, right? And the other thing, well, yeah, but if I go to here first, they'll know I'm cutting, so they try to cut out this middle spot. They try to go like this, right? So keep in mind that when I'm here, when I step here, this cut can be this shokunuchi, yokomenuchi, gaku yokomenuchi. It can be anything from here, right? And so as my partner receives the attack, he doesn't move here, because if he does, something can go different for him. So what he's looking for is this movement. At this spot, he can kind of see where things are going to work out for him, where the attack is going to come from. Okay, so again, You don't need your bokken unless you want them. But the idea is here, cut, here, cut, here, cut. So it all comes up to here, and then follows as you go through. Okay, so kind of something to work on. So Brian Sensei was practicing the what we call kurai touch in the Kashima in this idea that I pause the attack hits, and then as the kata goes, the person, like Sensei said, is he steps back and I cut through. Okay, so this kurai touch, ironically, is something that I saw many years ago in the ASU kata #1. So it's kind of interesting how they have some similar ideas. So when you're doing this, even if I'm standing here and here, here and here, in my mind at least, I'm always looking at the triangle stance, always looking at things like I'm a pyramid. So a pyramid maybe with like an invisible third corner, right? And so the idea is that I see behind me, I see a front and I see a back. And of course, now I see a front and I see a back as I go. And it's interesting to me that Kashima is very similar to that. When you get into their very deep stances, they really pronounce a lot of that idea, okay? And so up, but also down and down. And again, there's many ways to do different basic practices. But for us, one of the things that we do when we're working on just basic concepts of blending with each other is that we step for our katate dori, let's say for tenkan, for example, and I really, in my mind, I put the foot out and I extend, and this is coming from my center. So I am piercing through my partner, okay, and I pierce through in my mind, but then what I do is I feel where they meet me, and wherever they meet me, that's when I know that we're tied together. We got our Kimusubi, right? We've got everything nice and in a knot. So I move. So just like with the sword, I move from my hips. I move from low and low. And when I turn, I'm always in this nice kind of, you can think of it like screwed into the ground. So when I step, you know, I'm able to move, and it goes back to, again, what Brian Sensei was talking about, this idea of nice and flowing. So I've always seen the knot here in my hakama as the difference between, you know, yin and yang, the two worlds, right? The bottom world is a stable world, you know, stable, very rooted world, and then above is a very flexible world, right? It's very flexible. It's not something that I ever put any muscles in because it doesn't do any good, and it almost takes over my bottom too. It makes me a little top heavy, okay? So when you practice, you're thinking that we're going to sit into where my partner grabs, and then I move. So again, as I move, I'm meeting the partner there, and I'm heavy here. Meeting and heavy. The attack line is what we're both working on. We're both, okay, if we want to not say fighting for, then it's what we're both trying to achieve. And so the idea is that when I come in and I make that feeling, I don't want to get too far off there. I don't want to give it away, right? So I step in on the line, and then I move. In, and I move. But notice again, like when I move my arms, I don't want big arms out here. all this does is makes the line that I'm trying to keep something that can get away from me. So if I can, the line is there, and then I move around it as you go. So I know this is, most of you guys are probably advanced level folks, and I apologize. But again, to me, having had beginners, a lot of beginners lately, I really find myself diving into these basic concepts, these basic ideas, and I find them fascinating, you know, after 30 years. So it's kind of cool, I guess. Kind of cool or sad, one of the two. You can ask my wife. But so the idea is that too, so I have my small student here, and the feeling is that when he goes and he grabs, I set into him. Okay, so what we were just doing with our bodies, I go here, right? And so you have, if you have a partner with you, you can practice this. If not, then I won't do too much partner, but the feeling is in my mind is that I am skiing into his belt. And now that's the practice part. And then what I do is I back off and I let him move. I go in and then I back off. So I don't want to be like some kind of rough guy, you know, and then doing all this kind of stuff because it hurts me. But in my mind, I move. When he comes around, when I come around, I'm heavy. And again, always trying to keep my body here as much as I can. Okay, trying to keep it, just because like Brian Sensei was doing the, you know, these expansion ideas. I know Yamaguchi Sensei was very much a fan of this exercise. I think I've seen every video I've ever seen of him. At some point, he does this, and so I kind of think about this a lot, and I think about, you know, what does it mean and where does it go? You know, where does it fit into the lexicon of our practice? You know, why did he find it so interesting that he wanted to put it in? So again, this idea is moving. So I'm here, and as I move, or maybe the other direction to here. So this is maybe not beginner waza. I don't teach the beginners this. You know, this might be more of a traditional Tenkan idea. But for your advanced folks, you know, the idea is that I want to be able to take my partner's balance as softly as I can. And so it is maybe a little counterproductive, at least for me, to come in horizontal, so to speak, right? Now what I have to do is I have to then apply my center, versus if I can come in already applying my center, then I move a little bit more natural. Gene, kill me, make sure I'm on time. Brian, am I good on time?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, you're doing fine. Maybe, yeah, 10 more minutes is fine.
10 more minutes? Okay, good. Thanks. 10 more minutes, Dean? Okay. So, again, interestingly, like, again, the Kashima idea here can be into our Aikido from a kata dori standpoint. So then, and again, thank you, Brian Sensei, for giving me a direction this morning. So the idea here of the kurai touch, or the block before here and here, is something that we can also see. So again, maybe not necessarily Aikido technique, but Aikido study is from Aihanmi Hikachi Okamanu. Okay, and so the feeling here is, again, up. Okay. So, okay. Or it can be same side. It can be on the outside here. Okay. But again, notice that I'm not going and blocking it. That puts me in his power, right, as he goes. So what I want to do is I want to meet him right there, and he has to adjust. as we go. And again, I would say if he does that thing, and I go like this, put it on there. So if I'm up here, if my knees are locked, then I'm top heavy. So what I want to do is I want to sink just a little bit. Okay, other side, lay it. Oh yeah. So maybe it took a second, right? So as you're doing this, this feeling here, this kurai touch, right? This idea. This is not made for a. It basically is a block, right? So the idea is that I block and then I cut inside. So it would look maybe something. And again, maybe not an Aikido waza, but here, and then that's the threat. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it. You probably won't. Okay. Go back. So we go slow. So I parry, right? And maybe it's not the fact that I'm going to go hit him, but the reason why he keeps the motion here is because if he draws drop it, that comes in. Okay, so that's kind of the idea out there. And then from there we can also here work on this kind of waza as well. So I would say maybe that the kurai here, maybe this is the kurai first. This is the kurai second, right? So where have we seen that before? This idea, okay? So again, something very basic, but something that, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I can directly see that in relation to the Kashima idea, right? The Kashima idea. So that, maybe we'll leave that from that standpoint. That's a lot of nage talk, a lot of tori talk, right? So maybe the idea now is, as we practice, in your mind, we're now going to be uke. And as we are uke, katate dori. And remember, my partner just put his ki into me. So what I want to do is I want to use my legs to absorb, so that I keep myself here. And I use a lot of this as my flexibility, because the last thing that I want to do is if I grab and I don't use my legs, he takes me down, and now my head is to him, and I don't want him to see that, right? So as I grab, his job is to take me down, and as he takes me down, I absorb as we go. So Justin, you get to be the sensei now, okay? So as I go and I grab my partner and he grabs me, this is the idea, okay? Other side. So here. So notice that I still maintain my distance here. If I don't, and I go here, and there's no other technique that's needed because I'm in his range, okay? The last thing I'll say, because I know I'll probably come up on my time, is so the uke's job is to attack and ask questions, right? So what uke does is, when I come in and I grab, I'm soft, I feel where he's going, so he's going down. So I don't have to fight him the whole time. Maybe this is where he wants to go. If he's too much for me, right? If he comes through and he busts through me, then I just let him go through, and then now we have some other waza on our. So the uke, just like the tori, is never 100% committed or just chasing, right? So when he comes in, think in your mind that you grab, you see what's happening, and you have some other options. Maybe you want to see what you're doing. So when you grab, okay, first kata here, first exercise is you want to just feel it. So he's attacking your center, or she is attacking your center, and as they do, you move it out of the way. Move it out of the way. Or maybe open it up. Where do we see this? Where do we see this? right? Same idea. Okay, so here, then maybe what you do is you take their center from them, or you take their center from them. So this is the idea, is that then we become two people that are trying to touch each other's center and then give messages, not messages verbal, of course, like physical messages, to be able to figure out how to bring each other into balance. Okay, that's kind of the idea. At least that's the idea. So again, from a very basic idea, very basic, just kata dori, that is something that I've been working on for quite a while now. So that being said, because I tend to go over all the time, I'm going to try not to go over. I'm going to try to end a little early. So Brian?
Sure. Sensei, why don't you bow us out? That's fine. I bowed us
Oh,
out.
okay. Is everyone ready?
I think so.
So Brian, I guess we'll all bow to you guys have to follow me. Okay, good. I was lost before. So let's, all right. Arigatou gozaimashita.
どうもありがとうございました。